Sup, dude. Dwyane Wade is the best player to never win MVP. Sorry, Jerry West, he would cook you. His nickname is the Flash, which is dope, but kinda also gives dude in a trench coat hanging out near a playground vibes. When I hear the Flash, all I think is Josh Primo. But if you look past that, it's pretty sick. The guy was extremely quick. He could go from one end of the court to the other in a blink of an eye. His first step looked like he was shot out of a cannon. It was lethal. He had defenders frozen like their mom just walked in on the goon sesh. In addition to his speed, he was an elite finisher. After blowing by his defender, he had an array of acrobatic Cirque du Soleil type layups as well as ill-intentioned dunks to pull out of his bag. During his prime, he was converting 60 to 65% of his shots at the rim. For comparison, Joel Embiid shot 65% from their last season. The difference between the two is 60 pounds and 8 inches. Pause. What allowed Wade to be such a deadly slasher was the fact that he was ridiculously athletic and had a 6'11 wingspan. That helped a lot on the other end of the court too. No need to ask Gabrielle Union, the dude's D was phenomenal. There isn't a guard in NBA history better than him at swatting shots, though I will say Derek White has potential to take his spot. Ever since he went bald, that shiny head's been blinding dudes. Not gonna lie though, the naked cranium looks good on him. When he had hair, it was pretty much only on the back of his head. It was ready to go his rookie year. Because he kept it for so long, he either didn't care or he wanted to keep it. Hopefully he knew he could have gotten a hair transplant. With that $100 million contract, it would have affected his bank account like if me or you bought a McChicken. Anywho, prior to becoming one of the greatest two guards ever, D Wade was just a little dude from Chicago with really big dreams. He went to high school at Harold L. Richards where he played basketball and football. At the start of his high school career, he was surprisingly much better at football. The wide receiver slash backup quarterback cooked fools on the gridiron. He didn't really break out as a basketball star until his junior year when he gained 4 inches. But when that time came, noise was made. As a junior, he averaged 21 points and 8 rebounds, and as a senior, he pumped those numbers up to 27 and 11. Dude was a pimp, but didn't get recruited much because in the classroom, he was a little slower than the other kids. Because of this, he bombed his ACT, so despite putting up 27 and 11, the only schools that offered him were Marquette, Illinois State, and DePaul. His choice ended up being Marquette, but he couldn't even play his first year because his grades didn't meet Proposition 48 requirements. A year later, in 2001, he started out his college career, but the wait was worth it. He took everybody's cookies, leading Conference USA in steals with 2.5 a night, while also averaging 18 points, a block, 7 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. His stellar production brought Marquette to the tournament, but they lost in the first round against Tulsa. Ignoring the L, Wade had a great game on both ends of the floor, picking up 3 steals, 2 blocks, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and 18 points on 8 for 13 shooting. The dude was built for big moments. He further proved this the very next year when he brought Marquette all the way to the Final Four. In his second season, he became a first-team All-American, Conference USA Player of the Year, Conference USA Defensive Player of the Year, and he led Marquette to the 3rd seed in the Midwest. When March rolled around, Wade came out the gates a tad slow, but by the Sweet 16 he was cooking. This propelled Marquette to their first Final Four appearance since 1977. They went on a run defeating Holy Cross, Missouri, Pittsburgh, and even number 1 seed Kentucky. In the Kentucky game, Wade solidified his status as a future superstar. In that game, he recorded one of the most memorable performances in college basketball history, posting a triple-double with 29 points, 11 rebounds, and 11 assists. Although his team lost in the Final Four, he won. He showed NBA scouts more than enough and was projected to go anywhere from 5 to 10 in the stacked 2003 draft. There was nothing he had left to prove at the college level, so after they lost to Kansas, he put his name in the bucket, joining a class that included dudes like my sunshine LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, and Chris Bosh. He ended up getting picked right after Bosh, going 5th overall to the Miami Heat. The Heat saw that smolder and couldn't resist. Drafting the young guard quickly proved to be one of the best decisions they ever made. Right from the jump, Wade made an impact. In his rookie season, the 22-year-old had already become one of the Heat's best players. He averaged an impressive 16.2 points, 4.5 assists, and 4 rebounds a night. Even more impressively, he did all that with a broke jumper. From mid-range and 3, he shot in the low 30s, but at the rim, he converted 58% of his lays and dunks. He was a wizard when it came to slashing. It wasn't going to be long before he was one of the best players in the league. His impressive production helped Miami win 42 games and make it into the playoffs. For a team that had only won 25 games the year prior, this was a huge step in the right direction. In the first round, they matched up with New Orleans. Just like in college, Wade showed he wasn't afraid of the spotlight. In game 1, he dropped 21 points in the cold game winner. Not gonna lie though, the next 3 games, the spotlight low-key got to him. He averaged just 9 points and 4 turnovers on 35% 64% shooting. Luckily though, the series was tied at 2 apiece, and in Game 5 he got back into his groove, picking up 21, 5, 5 in the dub. His stellar play kept up in Game 6, dropping an even better 27, 7, and 6, but they lost, extending the series one more game. In that final game, D-Wade dropped an absolutely disgusting stinker, shooting 5 for 18 from the field. Despite his temporary blindness, the Heat won and moved on to the second round, where they faced off against 500-year-old Reggie Miller and the Indiana Pacers. That series wrapped up in 6 games. Wade played really well, but Metta World Peace and Jermaine O'Neal were too much to handle. Still, Wade's rookie season set the table for what was about to come. Fast forward to the 2004 offseason, things really started to heat up, pun intended. The Lakers had just lost to the Pistons in the finals, and things between Shaq and Kobe were like oil and water, so the Heat swooped in and traded for the big fella. With Shaq on board, expectations for the Heat went through the roof. In their first season together, Wade took his game to the next level. With Shaq commanding double teams in the paint, Flash had more opportunity to get buckets. He improved a ton from his first year, averaging 24.1 points, 6.8 assists, 5.2 rebounds, 1.5 steals, and a block. During his rookie year, he played point guard, but turnover problems led to his position getting switched to shooting guard. He was a much better scorer than playmaker, so he excelled at the two, making the All-Star team, the All-NBA second team, and the All-Defensive second team. With Shaq, the Heat were insanely good, winning 59 games, sitting atop the Eastern Conference. Come playoff time, they cruised through the first 2 rounds, but their season came to a heartbreaking end in the Eastern Conference Finals, where they lost to the Detroit Pistons in 7 games. Wade got hurt near the end of the series, which led to Miami falling short of making it to the finals, but that only set the stage for what was to come. In the 05-06 season, Flash came back better than ever before. He pumped his numbers up to 27 points, 6.7 assists, and 5.7 rebounds per game. At this point, there was no question of whether or not he was one of the best players in the league. The Heat finished the regular season with a 52-30 record, and once the playoffs started, it was clear Wade and Shaq had murder on their mind. Similarly to the year prior, Miami breezed their way back to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they got a rematch against the Pistons. The difference this time was Wade. He dominated the series, averaging 26.7 points on 61% shooting, leading Miami to defeat them in 6 games and advance to the NBA Finals for the first time in franchise history. They faced the Dallas Mavericks in the 06 Finals, but things started out really shitty. They lost the first 2, but then Wade locked in. Over the next 4 games, Wade put up one of the greatest finals performances of all time, averaging 39.3 points, 8.3 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. He was unstoppable. Dallas had no answer for the dude, which led to Miami winning 4 straight games, closing the series out 4-2 and securing the Heat's first ever NBA championship. Many people think it was rigged though. Former NBA ref turned felon Tim Donaghy claims they were giving Wade calls. In games 5 and 6, he shot a staggering 46 free throws. Whether they were earned or not, Wade was named Finals MVP, and rightfully so. He averaged 34.7 points over the entire series, carrying Miami on his back and cementing his place as one of the league's most elite players. In just his 3rd year in the league, Dwyane Wade had already reached the top of the mountain. From there, his legend only grew. He was a certified superstar, the face of the Miami Heat, and a Finals MVP. Though the next few seasons, Miami struggled to repeat the same success. D-Wade dealt with shoulder as well as knee injuries, and Shaq got bit by the injury bug as well. The big fella's age was starting to catch up with him, and eventually by 2008, the Heat traded him away, marking the end of the Shaq-Wade era. That first season without Diesel was rough. Wade missed 31 games with injuries, and the Heat finished with a miserable 15-67 record. It was rock bottom for the franchise. It would have been easy for the Flash to lose hope, but instead he did the opposite. Fueled by frustration and a desire to prove himself, Wade came back the next year healthy with a vengeance and put the entire league on notice. Dude wasn't fucking around. In the 08-09 season, he led the league in scoring, averaging a ridiculous 30.2 points per game, along with 7.5 assists, 5 rebounds, 2.2 steals, and 1.3 blocks. The injuries definitely lowered his potential, but they weren't gonna stop him. While he didn't take Miami on a deep playoff run, it was clear that with a little roster revamp, they could compete for more championships. In 2010, they sucked again, but then came the offseason. This is when they decided to initiate the revamp, and it went better than anyone could have ever imagined. They signed the best player in the world, LeBron James, as well as Chris Bosh, who was fresh off averaging 24 points per game, thus forming arguably the most legendary trio in NBA history. Although they were stacked in their first year together, they started out pretty shit and finished even more shit. They got embarrassed by German Jesus in the finals after LeBron played like a wussy. If he hadn't, they could have won because D-Wade went crazy, averaging a very efficient 26, 7, and 5. He may have been almost 30 with nagging injuries, but the dude dude still had some gas in the tank. Over the course of the next few seasons, he put that on display. After taking a huge L on the big stage, the Heat locked in. They had to. They talked all that talk, but couldn't beat a team with just one star. It was a huge bruise on their egos, but proved to be necessary because in the following 2 seasons, they unleashed all that pent-up rage. In 2012, Wade's experience and grit helped the Heat win another title, this time against the young Oklahoma City Thunder. Flash played a key role alongside LeBron and Bosh, but it was clear by then that he was willing to defer a bit more to LeBron, knowing that their success depended on the king. Still though, Wade was the Robin to LeBron's Batman. He put up 22 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists per game in the finals, showing the world that he was still one of the best 2 guards in the game. They swiftly beat OKC in 5, then kept up the domination in the 2012-13 season. That year, Miami went on an absolute tear. They racked up a ridiculous 27-game win streak, the second longest in NBA history. While LeBron was playing at an MVP level, Wade was the perfect complement, still doing his thing, but conserving his energy for when the team needed him most. He wasn't the same high-flying Flash every night, but when it mattered, he showed up. They finished with 66 wins and secured the top seed in the East. Come playoff time, they breezed their way back to the finals, but were matched up with San Antonio, who are masters of the power of friendship. They gave Miami lots of problems. Through 5 games, the Spurs went up 3-2, but in Game 6, Ray hit that one shot and the rest was history. The Heat won in 7, securing back-to-back rings. D-Wade averaged 20 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and added his 3rd ring to his collection. After that, his career started to go downhill. They made it back to the finals in 2014, but the injuries were catching up to him. He averaged just 15 in the finals and they lost. Then LeBron left and Wade's regression into a vet began. He was an all-star up until 2016, then he did 3 more seasons with Chicago, Cleveland, and Miami to wrap it up. The man walked out with 3 rings, a finals MVP, and a legacy that's getting him a statue. He gave the Heat everything he had, from fearless drives to the rim to clutch shots in the biggest moments. He was more than just the Flash. He was the heart and soul of the Miami Heat. He was a leader, a champion, and a dude who brought fire and a ridiculous amount of excitement to every game. There's no debate. Dwyane Wade is one of the greatest shooting guards of all time, probably 3rd greatest, and when it comes to Miami, he's the GOAT. You know who else is the GOAT? Anthony Davis, the GOAT of the unibrow. He was the greatest big man of the 2010s, and I just made a video about him. You can click here to watch the video I made on him. Thanks for watching this one. Hope you enjoyed. Bye, dude.